Well, I might as well do this movie too.
Fucking hell.
Fucking hell.
This movie is a little bit different. This time Jar Jar did not direct it. He moved on to fuck up the Star Wars franchise. However, it is still produced by Jar Jar's production company, Fucked Up Robot. And who do you think they tapped to direct this movie? Justin Lin. A director and producer of the Fast and Furious franchise.
Fucking hell.
God damn it!
Also, the movie is stated as written by Simon Pegg and Doug Jung. That is a definite step up from the Dynamic Dunces. However,
well, let's not start sucking each other's dicks quite yet.
after looking on imdb.com, there are an additional 3 uncredited writers associated to this movie. They are Roberto Orsi, half of the Dynamic Dunces.
Fucking hell.
Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne. Writers that went on to become the showrunners of Amazon's The Rings of Power.
Oh my god, no way!
Are you fucking joking?
So in summary, this movie is directed by a Fast and Furious director, had the script molested by one half of the Dynamic Dunces and 2 woke writers that openly stated they are not bound by established canon, all overseen by Jar Jar's production company with a lower budget than the previous movie. With all of this half-assed talent working behind the scenes, because Jar Jar isn't the director, because the Dynamic Dunces and the crony Damon Lindelof did not write the story, by default, this installment is the best one of the 3.
Fucking hell.
As we are now in the post-Disney Star Wars era. Everybody knows how shitty a director and writer Jar Jar is. And with the era of Kurtzman Trek and his production company, Secret Shithole, everybody knows he's a shitty writer and a shitty showrunner.
I don't know why you keep hiring that fucking guy.
So now you might be wondering, is this installment any good? Is it better than the 2 previous movies? Yes. However, the bar those 2 movies set was so low, that a toddler or a cricket can hurdle it with ease. Evaluating this movie on its own, ask yourself, do you enjoy Fast and Furious movies? I have not seen a single one, and I have no interest in starting. If you do, I would guess you would probably enjoy this movie. In regards to Star Trek, is it as good or better than Trek 5, or 7 or 9? These 3 movies are the worst Trek movies in the prime timeline. I could see people saying that STB is more entertaining than the others, and at the least, I would say it is debatable that STB is a better Trek movie than the others. Personally, I would say no, and that is solely due to the changes and liberties taken due to the Kelvin timeline. With that said, I will give this movie credit in doing away with magic blood and transwarp beaming that was idiotically established in the 2 previous movies. Now with all of this said, let us start with the super skinny summary of the movie. We begin the movie in the 3rd year of their 5-year mission, with Kirk acting as a third-party delegate negotiating a peace treaty between 2 unknown races. He presents an artifact, which was once a part of an ancient weapon as an offering. But the aliens are extremely skeptical and paranoid, and begin attacking Kirk. He beams out back to the Enterprise, and gives the artifact to Spock to be catalogued in the archives. The Enterprise docks at the Yorktown for resupply, which is basically a Death Star that doesn't shoot. During this time, new Spock is informed that old Spock has bought the farm. While docked, the Yorktown encounters a life pod that emerges from a nearby uncharted nebula. Upon questioning, she says her ship crashed on a nearby planet and requests a rescue from a ship that can navigate through the nebula. Being that the Enterprise is the most advanced ship in Starfleet, Kirk volunteers. Flying into the nebula, the Enterprise encounters no issues whatsoever, and reach the other side finding the planet where the survivor stated her ship crashed. Soon, they encounter an unknown ship which they receive no answer to their hails, only to find out that the large ship is actually made up of a swarm of smaller ships. A ship battle ensues, disabling the Enterprise, and is boarded by the attacking intruders. They make a beeline to the archives to steal the artifact from the beginning of the movie. The Enterprise is destroyed, and the crew abandons ship with some captured by the attackers and some landing safely on the planet. Spock and Bones are taken by an enemy ship, but manage to commandeer it from the aliens. On the planet, the crew are all separated, with Spock and Bones in one location, Kirk and Chekhov and the survivor in another, and Scotty in another, with the rest of the crew captured and imprisoned in the alien camp. Kirk holds the survivor at gunpoint demanding answers, and she tells him she lied in order to protect her crew and the person that attacked them was a person named Krall. We learn that Krall does not have the artifact and Kirk has hidden it away. Back on the Enterprise saucer section, the survivor reveals herself to be a double agent and after a chase and firefight, she's killed. Bones and Spock crash land on the planet and Spock has been impaled with a piece of bulkhead. Scotty meets Jayla, another alien that was attacked and stranded by Krull. She recognizes the Starfleet insignia on his uniform and offers to help him find the crew in return for his help. They enter Jayla's home and Scotty discovers it is the long-lost USS Franklin. In the prison camp, Sulu and Uhura,
San Francisco cocksucker,
break out of their confinement and make their way to a computer terminal. They're able to send out a distress signal and discover that Krull has access to the Yorktown databases and ship logs, when they are captured again. Krull takes them back to his camp, and after a few back-and-forth dick-measuring threats, Krull tells them their distress signal was futile. Krull then reviews Kirk's last ship's log, and runs to the imprisoned crew members demanding where the artifact is. He threatens to kill Sulu when a crab-headed crew member tells him to stop and gives him the artifact. Back on the Franklin, the team attempt to devise a rescue plan, and Spock tells Chekhov to search for a rare Vulcan mineral, which is the centerpiece of the necklace he gave to Uhura.
San Francisco cocksucker.
Knowing that the crew are in Krull's camp, they hatch their rescue plan. Back in camp, Krull monologues to Uhura,
San Francisco cocksucker,
and the crab-headed lady for some reason, and kills the crab-headed crew member with the assembled artifact. Krull prepares to launch his attack on the Federation, when Kirk drives in on a dirt bike. He drives around creating a diversion using holograms of himself, while the others beam in and rescue the imprisoned crew. The crew beam back to the Franklin, while Spock goes to save Uhura,
San Francisco cocksucker,
and Jayla gets into a fist fight with Krull. Anyway, Kirk shields the crew as the last group beams back to the Franklin, and he saves Jayla as they both beam back in mid-air. Krull launches his attack, and Kirk gets the Franklin ready to pursue. After a sequence of false tension, the Franklin is up and flying and in pursuit. The Yorktown is under attack by Krull and his ships as Kirk and crew devise a way of stopping or delaying Krull's attack. Jayla calls Krull's ships bees, and Spock has a moment of serendipity stating he needs to get aboard one of the ships. Him and Bones beams into one of the ships and commandeers it, finding that the jamming frequency is not to jam the comms, but the way of communicating with the other ships. The Franklin plug in a boom box into the comms and broadcast the Beastie Boys' Sabotage into the open, which destroys the ships in close proximity to the Franklin. They patch the song to the Yorktown, and they also blast it, destroying the ships that come close as well. Krull still manages to breach the Yorktown, and Spock and Bones pursue along with the Franklin. Kirk tells Spock to lead the 3 enemy ships to the city center and the ships crash into the Franklin. After searching the hull breaches, they cannot find Krull, but see a dead crew member Krull killed. While searching, Uhura,
San Francisco cocksucker,
comes across monitor playing old footage of the Franklin crew. Curious, she rewinds the tape over and over, focusing on the captain, and states that he is Krull. The next time we see Krull, he's practically human in appearance and wearing a Starfleet uniform. He proceeds to the atmospheric regulator to deploy his weapon, and Kirk pursues him. After a little anti-grav fisticuffs, Kirk wins and Krull dies. At the end, the crew and company celebrate Kirk's birthday and Kirk declines the Vice Admiral promotion in order to remain captain. We see the new Enterprise built over a sped-up stop-motion sequence. The end. Of course we will delve into the details of the movie, but that is the gist of the story. I am not going to do a 20-issue list like the last 2 movies. To the movie's credit, there are not 20 bad story issues to highlight. Contrasting this movie against the previous 2, let us look at the improvements. As I already mentioned, not reintroducing magic blood or transwarp beaming into the story is a vast improvement. Another improvement is the professionalism. It wasn't close to being totally corrected, but compared to the previous movies, the dialogue between crew members were much more Trek-like. If we were comparing this movie to the original series or Next Generation, it sucks. I am not addressing casual dialogue in a private setting or in a turbolift, but dialogue on the bridge and people acting in the capacity of their ranks. We don't get juvenile dialogue of how proficient Uhura is at giving a blowjob.
San Francisco cocksucker.
Another improvement are the characters. Namely, Spock and Kirk. Although new Spock is still an overall shitty character and shitty portrayal of what he is supposed to be, it is still an improvement from the previous iterations. For some reason, the dynamic dunces think a smart person that knows a vast array of scientific knowledge is a douchebag that only cares about winning an argument. In this movie, he knows his place and pushes back with commonsensical logic. Do I still have issues with Spock in the movie? Yes, I do, but we'll talk about those later. And the biggest improvement of the movie from the previous 2 is Kirk. He's the captain, and for once, he actually acts like a captain with conviction. He's not winging it. He has a plan and he confides in his crew to get the job done. His orders are not constantly questioned. He doesn't make any stupid decisions like take on an illegal assassination mission. Yes, Kirk's character is much better in line with how he's supposed to be, however, he still doesn't have the gravitas of portraying Kirk the way the Shat did. He's not worthy to be compared to Picard, Sisko, or even Janeway.
Pathetic.
Let us now discuss the change in direction. Gone is Jar Jar, and with it, gone are the annoying lens flares. Gone is the ADHD pacing that skipped over logical continuity, rationale, and common sense just to get to the next action set piece quicker. Gone are the incessant shaky cam action cinematography. Saying a Fast and Furious director is better than Jar Jar doesn't say that Justin Lin is a good director, but rather, it highlights how shitty a director Jar Jar truly is. I would like to have said, gone are the pointless Dutch angle shots, but unfortunately, I can't. They are stupid, pointless, and annoyingly useless. I have not seen any other movie Justin Lin has done, but what I gathered from this movie, he is a serviceable director. There is no unique vision or style. And if this movie was a display of his style, then it was very ordinary, leaning towards the annoying. Being that he was also credited as a producer on this movie as well as the Fast and Furious movies, he is nothing less than a company man's director. Then again, what else is new?
I don't know why you keep hiring that fucking guy.
Now let us delve into the negatives of the movie. The costume designs suck. The uniforms look like crap. Obviously they are mimicking the original series designs, but I believe they were not allowed to straight out copy the OG costumes. These look cheap and very uncomfortable on the actors. The previous movie's costumes were better. It isn't a big deal, but it is worth a mention. Another negative is the Enterprise. I only gave it a passing mention in my previous review, but with it being destroyed, I can expand a bit. The JJ Trek Enterprise is by far the ugliest looking Enterprise ever designed. Because of it, it might be the reason why it was destroyed in the movie, which I would agree with. This shot of the Enterprise is by far the ugliest shot of the Enterprise ever put to film. In this universe, the Enterprise is the Federation flagship, and even after 5 or 6 years in service, it is still the most advanced Federation ship. What the hell are the Starfleet nerds and boffins doing? Why isn't there a new ship with all of the technological advances made from the Vengeance? The movie stating the Enterprise is still the most advanced ship in the Federation is pretty much a throwaway line, but then again, there was no need to even state that. The biggest issue I have with the Enterprise, other than being hideous, was I felt nothing. When the ship was destroyed, I felt all of two things. Jack and shit. I felt no loss. I felt no sadness. Not like I did in Trek 3. In Trek 3, which was a minuscule budget compared to these shitty movies, not only treated the Enterprise as a character, but at the same time continued to develop Kirk's character.
My God, Bones. What have I done? What you had to do. What you always do. Turn death into a fighting chance to live.
Now some of you are saying that this movie couldn't do what Trek 3 did because the circumstances were different. Once again, let me reiterate, the writers have a blank slate to write whatever they want. It is their job to craft a story that makes us want to care about the Enterprise being lost. Now I will grant you that the two previous movies failed to build upon the notion of the Enterprise being a character, yet clearly with the swelling music, we were supposed to feel sad and loss when it went down. Forced emotional coercion gets no points in my book. Speaking of music, yes, the music still sucks. Michael Giacchino is, and will always be, an overrated composer in my book. Now ask yourself, what soundtrack can you listen to of his outside of the movie? Can you listen to Star Wars? Yes. Can you listen to Trek 2? Yes. Can you listen to Tron Legacy? Absolutely. Now can you listen to Inside Out, any of these shitty movies, or even The Batman without getting bored or finding it incessantly repetitive?
Get the fuck out of here.
I don't know why you keep hiring that fucking guy.
Now with all of that out of the way, let us get into the story-related negatives. There aren't 20 of them, but unfortunately they still outweigh the positives. The first is Spock. Yes, he is a much better character in this movie, but unfortunately, the negative attrition of JJ Trek has completely ruined the character to be truly salvageable. I will grant that Spock is being portrayed in line with JJ Trek, but them failing to truly portray him as a Vulcan still pisses me off. Even when suffering and enduring great pain, a Vulcan would not scream out, but do so with as much stoic control as physically possible. Given these, quote, liberties, they imbued new Spock with, has led to the absolute bastardization of the character in Kurtzman Trek. The only solution in curing this is burning all these movies and all Trek associated with fucked up robot and secret shithole productions. The next is the transporter. I will classify this as a nitpick, but as they continue to do this it annoys me. In Trek 09, the Enterprise beamed Sulu and Kirk in mid-air. Not only were they free-falling, but they were free-falling long enough to reach terminal velocity. When they are beamed onto the Enterprise, they are beamed in mid-air and then hit the floor. Thus, if they were beamed and falling at terminal velocity, when they hit the floor, they're dead. Basically, if they are beamed in mid-air, and the momentum of their fall is negated by the transporter, then they should beam back on the Enterprise on the transporter floor. Only in these shitty movies does this happen. Again, it is a nitpick, but I find it increasingly annoying. The next issue is the Yorktown. It is basically a big artificial planet. The reason is why. Why the fuck would the Federation, or any advanced civilization for that matter, build a huge artificial planet, rather than terraform a nearby planet and build a starbase next to it? The amount of time and resources it would take to build it is completely infeasible. Now, based off of Wikipedia, it is said the JJ Trek Enterprise is about 1,200 meters long, which is roughly 3/4 of a mile. Given the size of the Enterprise, I estimate it would take about 150 to 200 Enterprises parked ass to cover the distance of the Yorktown's diameter. Thus, the Yorktown's diameter is approximately 110 to 150 miles long. Just for perspective, that's similar to the distance between Dallas and Austin, Texas. So I can hear some of you saying, so what? Who cares how big it is? And I partly agree with you. The point I'm making is it's stupid, and it's created specifically for the villain to threaten to destroy later on in the movie that is grand enough in scale to be devastating. Apparently, they didn't want to use Earth or some other alien civilization to threaten. Just like the previous two movies, this shows me the movie was written something like this.
Connect the dots, la 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 la. Connect the dots, la 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 la.
Just like the last two movies, it feels like the stories were written backwards in conceiving the final resolution of the movie, and then connecting the dots to lead to this preconceived ending, which perfectly answers why the movie's solutions were so contrived, and were devoid of any logical common sense. Now the movie does provide a throwaway for why it is built.
Just rent some space on a planet?
Showing geographical favoritism among inducted Federation worlds could cause diplomatic tension.
Bullshit! This is bullshit.
Once again, the smug douchebag opens his fucking mouth and spews contradictory bullshit. Just because the Yorktown is self-contained, doesn't change the fact that it is still built within Federation space. And in Federation space, there are specific members of the Federation that make up their home system. Thus, if you build the Yorktown in one member's system rather than another member, would you not still garner the exact same diplomatic tension? In all three of these movies, this is the advice I would give new Spock to follow that would have made all three movies better.
Shut the fuck up!
Shut the fuck up!
Shut the fuck up.
So here come 2 words for you. Shut the fuck up.
Okay. Here is my last issue. Go ahead and pour yourself a strong one. Of all the things I have already brought up, this one issue alone is the reason why the movie is shitty. You probably already know what it is. The biggest issue of the movie is the villain Crawl. Not Crawl, but Crawl. An absolutely stupid fucking name for a main villain, and this isn't even a James Bond movie. My first issue with Crawl is he's played by Idris fucking Elba. Fucking DCI Luther himself, and they choose to cover him in all of this bullshit makeup.
In heaven's name, why?
Stupid!
Assholes.
The heavy makeup wastes the potential Idris Elba could have brought covering up his natural emotive acting, not to mention he has a physical presence on his own. Given his appearance needed to be masked in order to fit the story, with Idris Elba signing on to the movie, they should have altered the script and story to utilize him to the fullest. This was a complete fail in all ways. The next thing is the Franklin. Luther is the captain of the USS Franklin. It crash-landed on the planet, and when it didn't move a single inch from the day it crashed. So why doesn't Luther cannibalize it? It still has power and the systems can still be repaired to work. Being that Kirk and crew flew back through the nebula to reach the Yorktown again, pretty much proves there was nothing preventing Luther from plotting a return course back home. Also, being that the Franklin never moved since it crashed, do you think some hollow emitters is going to hide it from him? Just because he might not be able to see, doesn't change the location of where it crashed. For Luther to abandon it 100% outright makes no sense whatsoever. And why does Luther look the way he looks? Because of the alien technology? There is no explanation for it. And him using the crew to alter his appearance back to normal makes no sense at all. It is a complete ass pull just for the ending. And of course when Uhura is looking for him, she stops looking because a monitor is on? Why? Why would looking at old film of the crew catch her attention when a deadly terrorist is on the loose in their vicinity? Also, she doesn't just look at in passing. No. She rewinds the footage over and over again to key in on somebody in the background. So passing by the monitor the first time, a person in the background caught her eye in order for her to investigate it and rewind the tape over and over again?
Get the fuck out of here.
Stupid!
Next we have to talk about the bees. Yes, these ships were already there when the Franklin crashed. How many ships would you estimate attacked the Enterprise? 1,000? More like 10,000. And on 2 occasions, Spock and Bones commandeered them, showing they were piloted by an alien. Back at camp, where are all these aliens? When Kirk and company busted out the crew from the prison camp, it looked extremely light-guarded. There were only a handful of sentries, when there should be thousands of aliens roaming the area. Also, we are talking about alien technology. When Spock and Bones commandeers the ships, they know how to read the alien readouts and flight controls. In perspective, that's like telling somebody to assemble a computer board with no instructions, and when you find the instructions, they're written in Japanese.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Stupid!
And of course, we have to mention the second coming of the Beastie Boys. As Justin Lin is a Fast and Furious director, he knows rap music all too well, so he dropped it in for himself. Whatever. The issue isn't the music or song choice specifically. It's the use of the music to disrupt the alien ships. The ships may use a frequency to relay information to each other, but each individual ship is still manually piloted by a living person. There is no reason for the ships to explode once the ships receive the music frequency. That is not stupid. That is fucking stupid. And finally, Luther's motivation. Why the fuck does Luther want to attack the Federation? The movie itself proves the Franklin was still operational. Thus, he still could have escaped the planet, flown back through the nebula, and back to a Federation starbase. Also, if he was so pissed off at the formation of the Federation to begin with, why the fuck did he enlist to be a captain of an organization he doesn't agree with?
Then quit, you slimy fucking walrus looking piece of shit! Get the fuck off of my obstacle!
This one aspect makes absolutely no sense whatsoever and fucks up any rational logic this movie has. He's a bullshit character. He's a villain for the sake of being a villain. How stupid is that? How the hell did this shit get green lit when your main antagonist makes no sense?
God damn it! I don't know why you keep hiring that fucking guy.
And that's pretty much it. I will say making Sulu a gay character and Kirk entertaining a promotion to Vice Admiral less than 5 years as captain is also complete bullshit, but then again, what else is new? The movie sucks as a Trek movie, and is pretty weak as a general action movie. Our cast of characters are better defined than the previous two, but that is borderline meaningless given what we got. JJ Trek began in 2009 and this movie was released in 2016, giving us 7 years of shit and not a glimmer of salvageability during that time. As we got STD as the successor, discounting all the established canon, with a Mary Sue main protagonist, the franchise was definitely in the shitter. And when you think it couldn't get any worse, Paramount names Alex Kurtzman, the other dynamic dunce, to be the showrunner of all Trek-related projects.
Fucking hell.
God damn it!
Motherfucker! You volumet! Motherfucker!
At this point, there is absolutely no hope for the franchise. It's in the hands of an inept and idiot showrunner that shows no deference or respect to the people that created it and made it what it was until Jar Jar came along and fucked it up for everybody. I have not watched anything Star Trek created past this movie, and from what I've heard, I haven't missed anything worthy of even background attention. And that will do it for this review. To my handful of subscribers, many thanks as always, and please comment if there is a movie you would like to be reviewed. I hope to see you then, and until next time.
Cheers.